Welcome, welcome, welcome to episode 315 of the show with no name. I'm your humble host, Nick, and in today's episode, we're going to be visiting another little old farmer pioneer cemetery out here in the middle of nowhere in Washington State. This cemetery goes by the name of the Griffith Historical Cemetery. I have a number of people to talk about in today's episode, so let's get into this. The Griffith Historical Cemetery was formed when William C. Griffith gave 2 acres of land to the community for the cemetery in 1890. The Griffith family, Margaret, Thomas, William, George, Joseph, and James, came from Canada in around 1876 to homestead and farm. About half a mile south of here, William opened up a store and established a United States post office in 1891 for the village of Griffith, Washington, which closed in the year 1905. Graves marked Griffith, Lamar, and Kramer are descendants. Others were neighbors. This cemetery was restored in 1985, but hasn't gotten much attention since, as you can see. I'm going to start this episode off today talking about some of the people from the Griffith family that are buried here in this cemetery. And I'm going to start with Gracie Clara Griffith. She was born on May 19th, 1882 in California, and she would pass away on November 9th, 1891. She was only 9 years old. Gracie's brother, Jesse William Griffith, was born on March 7th, 1879 in California, and he would pass away on March 26, 1902 at the age of 23. His cause of death was whooping cough, from which he never recovered. There are also 2 other newborns buried in this cemetery from this family as well, but I wasn't able to really get any information on them at this time. The eldest of the Griffith children, Jesse William Griffith, was born on March 7th, 1879 in California, and he would pass away at the young age of 23 on March 26, 1902 in Ritzville, Washington. His cause of death was consumption and whooping cough, and he never recovered. His parents, whom helped found this cemetery, which is named after their family, are not buried here. They're actually buried out in a cemetery in Ritzville that I will hopefully cover in a later time. But they leave their children behind here at this old historical cemetery. Charles Shepard was born sometime in the year 1876, and he would pass away on January 22nd, 1899. He was just 22 years of age, and he died at the home of his parents of pneumonia. He had only been confided to his room for a few days, but suffering a relapse, the end soon came. Woodson B. Parr was born on September 12, 1849 in Boyle County, Kentucky. He would die just 2 days before Christmas on December 23, 1898 in Lincoln County, Washington. He was 49 years old, and I found quite an interesting story on Mr. Woodson, so let me tell you guys about it real quick. W.B. Parr died at his home on Crab Creek on December 23rd, 1898 at 1 p.m. Mr. Parr had not been sick for very long, but very few knew of his illness. A hunter from the creek told Mr. Dorman that there was a man dying on the creek with no one to look after him. Mr. Dorman and Mr. Griffith immediately proceeded to the Parr home and found the story correct. Several of the neighbors were informed, and no time was lost in doing everything possible for the dying man, but to no avail. On investigation, it was discovered that the family was in destitute circumstances. A relief petition was soon in circulation, and $33.25, besides many articles of clothing and food, were soon collected. Mr. Parr was doing pretty well up until about 5 years beforehand when he contracted the dropsy, and since then has been unable to do any work whatsoever. At times, his hands and face would swell up badly, and if anyone inquired after his health, he would say that he felt well and had a good appetite. The last 5 weeks he was unable to leave his bed, and no one knew of his illness until the day before he passed away. And last but not least, I want to talk about Obadiah Jacob Goebel. And he was born on February 6th, 1915. And he would pass away at the young age of 8 on April 23rd, 1923. Boy is killed in gun discharge. A second death has occurred in the family of John Goebel, who lives on Crab Creek near Rocky Ford. In February, his wife died suddenly in Spokane County. And last Monday evening, his oldest son, aged 8, killed himself accidentally when his father's revolver was discharged. According to the report we received, he was trying to take the weapon away from some of the younger children when it went off. The father was outside doing chores. The boy is buried in Griffith Cemetery next to his mother. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Griffith Historical Cemetery out here in the middle of nowhere in Washington State. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you.